Hey everybody, this is Petra with the Rebels Den, and with me today I have Artusha, a fairly new band out of Richmond. Woo!
Yep.
So I've known David for a minute, which is the guy with the long hair. There you go, we got somebody else with the long hair. So introduce you guys and just talk a little bit about what you do in the band.
You said me, I'm sorry.
Anybody, go ahead.
Oh, okay, yeah, sure. I play guitar and sing in the band. Our band's actually been around for on and off for like 10 years, but we just really didn't do a lot for quite some time, so we took a hell of a hiatus, I guess is the way to put it. So things happen, life gets busy, and you finally decide this is something you want to do. So here we are.
Yeah, it was mostly my fault. I really prefer. Well, it's a full-time job and full-time school, and it's hard. And yeah, I ended up. I was starting to write music again. David was writing music, and we were kind of heading in a similar direction. It looked like it would overlap again. I was like, "Hey, do you want to do a thing?" And he's like, "Yeah, you want to call it Artusha still?" And I was like,
"Sure,
yeah, cool." And we didn't have a drummer for a while, and this fellow was the original drummer, and it wasn't looking like that was happening for a minute, but it was like, it'd be cool if we, if we just had like the original lineup from, way back, and and that happened, and we're very ecstatic about that, man. This guy, he's like, this trio is, I think, what we both ultimately wanted to see back together. Like there was kind of a magic that was happening there. I think it was just a bad timing in life for it. Now I guess like age and maturity does a lot for being able to, do this kind of stuff together, and so it's way smoother sailing now. I mean, unbelievably so. I no regrets, not even one little letter.
Yeah, well, and I think, I mean, even some of the bigger names take hiatuses, so it's not like unheard of, right? People have to take a step back and just grow into whatever they need to grow into. And then hopefully come back to that point.
Yeah.
So your metal, any kind of specific genre of metal? Because there's so many.
I mean, we've kind of just been rolling with groove metal, more of that the Pantera-y kind of pace, that sort of thing. Not exactly like Pantera or anything like that, but yeah, that kind of pace, I guess you could say. A little bit of thrash in there, not a lot, but it's kind of a thing from way back. But yeah.
When I got with him, because I came at this basically like I was kind of in a revival of going through another hardcore punk phase actually, and I was getting into a lot of stoner rock bands and stuff. So to me, it was just kind of taking me in a direction that was crossing over with him. So it's sort of like coming from multiple angles with it. You know what I mean? It wasn't really like contrived out of the gate where it's like, oh, this is the thing we're doing. We all like this one thing specifically. It was more kind of like, even though we have slightly different tastes, like the stuff that we create together, it's kind of interesting really, because like both of us kind of have ideas that maybe the other one wouldn't have had because of I guess you kind of get, not a myopic view of, songwriting, but when you kind of have been like, oh, I'm in this niche, I guess, so you're kind of subconsciously, I think, pushed by elements of that. You know, and it worked really well. I mean, like all three of us, I think, have, different interests, outside, I think, the core of it, but ultimately, I think it helps. It's helped a lot. I've enjoyed it. I like this band better than I do other metal bands. That's what
Hopefully you're playing with them. But I think those outside interests that we have fuel our creativity a lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, when I first got started in my business, I read all the self-help books and all the business books, and I was like, oh my God, I can't read that anymore. And I read more fiction, and the fiction in books have helped me in my business probably more than anything else. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Side projects, or like, in your case, I guess side projects, but those interests kind of spark things that otherwise wouldn't have occurred to you. Yeah.
So I love that you guys have those outside interests, and it just seems to naturally merge with what you're doing.
Well, it's not that we don't all have interests that are in common. We do, but
But do you guys want to introduce yourselves, by the way?
Good plan.
My name is Caleb. Landers. David and I are actually related, so we go way back. I remember when we first started out. You know, we started out as kids, kind of playing in a little shed. So yeah, there's a lot of history there. So yes, I've been drumming with the band, like Brian had mentioned. Or I guess they both had kind of mentioned for like over 10 years now, kind of off and on. So yeah, so it's kind of a lot of musical history there between the three of us.
Yeah, yeah, we're kind of giving it a go again, I guess, but our primary projects now. As we've all been involved, it's like during the hiatus, we were all kind of involved in writing our own. So, like we all consider ourselves songwriters and producers. So it's not like anybody's having to carry an unfair amount of that load. It's kind of nice to be able to place that trust in other people that know what they're doing. You know what I mean? But by the way, I'm Brian Hayes, a very, very long time friend of the family, of the whole Landers family. So both of theirs relatives, known them since I was a kid. So it almost feels to me like this is, a family away from my own.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I feel really welcome and a long history with them prior to playing music together. So that works out really well. There is kind of that almost like brotherly bond when we're doing stuff where you can trust what each other are doing in good faith, because you have that other rapport with them that exists outside of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I play bass guitar and am a co-songwriter along with all them. It's been really great.
I think for any band, really, you have to have that trust. You have to have that bond. You have to have a friendship outside of the band. Like, you can't just show up on stage and do your thing. Like, there's so much stuff that has to happen behind the scene in order to make that happen, right? I said all of y'all are part of the producing team. Sounds like y'all delegate really, really well. Maybe.
Yeah, I joke around and say like we're probably the only band in the area with an official project management methodology. Really exceptionally well organized in that, because I actually live 100 miles from here in Northern Virginia, right outside of DC. So David and I started putting a little bit more into the organization and planning, and it's helped tremendously, because even when we're here, it's like we already know during the week like what our punch list is when I come down, and
it's hard to make any sort of like long distance relationship work in a lot of ways, but if the relationship is really based around some sort of common goal, obviously in music, it works out. We have a Google Drive account, we all share it, and we all throw ideas and this, that, and the other, and boom, we're basically staying in contact every day through that, talking, texting, you name it. So it works out great. I mean, that's any band should do that.
I think this is really important, because there might be somebody watching going, well, how can I make this work with somebody who lives further away?
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Right. And that's one of the things I like to highlight, some of those things, the challenges in these conversations, or some of the things that work really, really well. And for you guys to just know, we have a Google Drive, here's our to-do list or whatever you want to call it, and everybody has something to do in order to make this work. Right.
Yeah.
With that being said, when you are having challenges or maybe even a difference of opinion or something, how do you guys maneuver through that? I know there's a long history between you guys, but that stuff still happens. No matter how long you've been together or been a friend or family, you're going to have disagreements. How do you guys maneuver through them?
I think it's time. Anytime, I think a really good example was when we were working on the song Inquisition. Brian wrote pretty much all of that song, and he brought that to the table.
Yeah.
And I happened to be working on it a lot because we're sitting in a studio I built on my property where my house is.
Yeah.
So I happen to be here whenever I want to be, because it's, it's 50 feet from my front door. So it works out. But long story short, he presented this song. I started working on it. I would upload something, and then we caught a snag one day. We really disagreed on a vocal line, or something was happening. And it was the first time since we had started where it was like, oh wow, okay, we're really unhappy with this particular situation that's happening. But we literally basically just kind of agreed from there. We give everything pretty much 24 hours to marinate on certain stuff.
Yeah.
And you make a change. Literally 24 hours went by, and he came back and was like, hey, I kind of like the melody now.
Yeah.
And I was like, you do?
Yeah.
I was like, all right, cool.
Yeah. So the thing
it works out.
Yeah, the thing with that is like when you see here, all right. So most of these issues that have happened and I foresee happening is like with 3 people that were independent songwriters, like nobody's really just like that tag along person, you know, in the band. So and I don't really know if I should name drop or not, but I mean, it's like other bands that are probably like more known and established for decades that I've talked to, that I've just met over the years. So strangely enough, it was a DC go-go band called Trouble Funk, right? They're real big on the go-go scene there, and they're like kind of one of the founders, you know. And I happened to work with one of the guys in that band, and so he's kind of been like my unofficial mentor, but he's also my what I call my grand boss, like he's my boss's boss kind of thing. But I go see him play live, everything outside of that, and so he told me, and I don't know if you know anything about go-go, but sometimes the bands are like 10, 12 people in them, right? So he was basically like, well, you bring an idea to the table, and you actually are committed to having a band develop it. Like, you can't be a control freak like it's your baby. Like, what it is like you're gonna have to get used to the idea of having other people input things, and if it's different than how you originally wrote it or envisioned it, it might be uncomfortable at first, but you have to do like David said, and you know, give it time to where if you marinate on it for a couple of days, like that initial knee-jerk reaction kind of subsides, and you'll see some of the pros of what they offered, and you might have like a counter offer of something that, you know, like a third person will have an idea on where he's like, well, I see what you're going for, so maybe let's, you know, do this. And then like it ultimately, the sum total of all of those perspectives kind of creates something better that none of us would have originally necessarily come up with in the beginning. So it's kind of goes back to that that trust, and you have to trust that your other co-writers are doing what they're doing in good faith. They're not trying to like take what you're doing and ripping it from you and making it into something different. And that really ended up working out really well, because Inquisition, as it is now that we released it, I go back and listen to the version that I did on iOS GarageBand in my apartment, and you know, it's night and day better. It's like it's bigger, it's edgier, it fits the Artusha sound as a whole. Like it brought it kind of within inside of our Overton window that the 3 of us converge on. So the process really works, but like I know for me it's new because I've never had to just like relinquish the full control over it. But it's nice to be able to outsource the labor to other people that know what they're doing. Like I said, so it's the benefits greatly outweigh any drawbacks there would have been. I'm sure you've experienced that with, you know, business yourself. You know,
for sure.
A good
And
example
I think what I hear is communication is a huge part, right? Like being open to what other people have to say or think, their perspective, their opinion, and whatever, but also communicating, which I find in teamwork in general and in any kind of team collaboration, communication is probably the ultimate key to have.
Yeah.
One of the best things of advice I got in the last year or so was for my birthday, my wife got meet and greet tickets to meet Fit for a King, and we were down in Virginia Beach and we got to meet them or whatever. And they're really nice guys, but I've never paid to meet anybody in my life before, so it was weird for me. But anyways, long story short, they were really cool, but they asked everybody, you know, they have any questions, and everybody just kind of went cricket on them, didn't say anything. And I was like, all right, well, advice for younger bands, how about that one? And they're like, well, okay, you know, they all had their input, but the main thing I took away from it was don't ever go into your band with a song and go like, this is my song or my riff, you know, because then all of a sudden it's like, well, my thing has to stay intact just the way it is and be included. But anyways, he just basically said that and said, you know, split everything evenly. Everybody needs to work together, and you know, all that jazz, same stuff that you think you need to do.
Which, from the sounds of it, you guys have figured out how to make happen, especially with you being 100 miles away.
It was hard at first, like that. Figured out how to close the distance gap. I mean, I'm gonna move back here. I assume within the next year anyway. I'm from here originally, but the distance gap I think will help even being here, because then it's like it increases your chance for productivity. You know what I mean? As opposed to only being able to scheduled creativity time isn't always as fruitful as, you know, doing it when
for sure.
Do it, you know. But and then like you said, that being able to get over the hurdle of being so possessive. I think him and I had actually worked that out
Yeah.
prior, because Kalen just came back in to join, so he kind of, you got to avoid some of the growing pains, man. Like, I'm you're lucky you didn't have to be there for that. Yeah.
These things we've kind of done over the years anyway, you know. But
Yeah.
I think a big thing between the three of us too, just recently working on a lot of new stuff. I would really just kind of put it down to compromise, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if the three of us will kind of toss an idea out, you know, about something we like or don't like, and then, you know, like if I did that, then the other two would kind of chime in, like, well, I kind of like this and don't. So we'll try to find like a happy medium with all those things, or take elements from each person's opinion and put it into one idea. You know? So yeah, I think compromise is a big thing between us, you know, which in a good way though, not just compromise while like, oh well, you know, you know.
Everybody's left with the worst option.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's more like picking the best parts to make it one better thing.
It's all about what's going to make the song best and better.
Exactly.
If that makes sense.
With the goal in mind, right? I mean, so there is like an end result in mind. So with that being said, everybody has their own vision of an end result, and the compromise and communication is going to be a huge part of the process that you guys get on the same picture, right?
Patience and kind of, like I said, patience and letting it marinate. Like, see how we've had times where I was like, David, I hate that idea, and he's like, now, hold on, remember we agreed, just like let it marinate for a couple of days.
Yeah.
And then it did, and I was like, whew, you know, I felt better about it. You know what I mean? Like I understood the purpose of the, you know what I mean, the contribution.
Yeah, I get that. So I want to circle back, long history, et cetera, why heavy metal or metal, whatever you want to call it, and why your specific thing that you do in the band, like whether it be drums or singing or whatever.
Yeah, what are those? Let me put a nice place in my mind for those two questions. The first is why the genre, and why do you do what you do in the band?
Yes.
Right, got it.
For me, the genre is because I went to visit my sister. She's about 10 years older than I am. So she'd been listening to music for a little longer. But long story short, she showed me an Alice in Chains song, a Korn song, and Metallica. And at that point, I had never heard that music before in my life. I'd only heard like classic rock or like Q94 pop music from hanging around my mom when I was a kid. So that being said, she loaned me the Black Album on cassette tape, and I probably wore that tape out pretty quick. And before I knew it, I had like every Metallica cassette that I could find, and I wanted to start playing drums. I actually started playing drums was my first instrument, and then there's a longer story with all of that, but ended up on guitar and trying to sing, so that worked out. But I like doing what I do now because when I was a drummer at a younger age as a teenager, I hated the fact of being the drummer in those particular bands because they were doing most of the writing of like actual, lyrics and notes and what they're playing. And for me, I just felt kind of like not dissing drummers, because I actually believe the drummer is the most important member of the band.
Yeah, totally.
I believe drummers make and break bands personally.
Yeah.
But when I was a drummer, I just didn't like the bands I was in, I guess, at the time. And I got bored. So I wanted to play guitar. I want to take control of where these songs are really going. So that's where that started, and I'm glad I stuck with it.
Nice.
Okay, yeah. Why the genre? Why you do what you do? The genre,
because you know me.
All right, so like I was a punk rock guy growing up, shitty punk bands with tattered clothes and colored hair kind of thing, And I think that for me, I related to being able to express the angstiness in the songwriting here. And when you're younger, that makes a lot of sense.
Oh, absolutely.
But getting older, I think, and being a musician for longer and longer and longer, a couple decades, learning music theory and trying to see where else you can take it. This is actually kind of to me, like a natural progression of the growth. I mean, I know there's kind of the typecasting that punk rock is more like satirical and kind of outspoken. Heavy metal seems to be like more reflective and withdrawn, right? But it doesn't necessarily have to be the case. So like,
No,
like
but it makes perfect sense. I mean, my roots are in punk, so there's that.
I think like lyrics we've written so far, I think are pretty provide pretty good commentary and kind of have that. I don't know if extroversion is not really the right word for it, but it has that aspect that I really liked from punk and appreciated. And when I write lyrics, I kind of keep that spirit alive still, you know.
Yeah.
But musically, just as a musician, you know, I kind of grew into things that also would allow me that, you know, that creativity and flexibility that comes with knowledge of how to compose music. This was kind of a natural progression of it. It wasn't necessarily by intent. It just ended up that way to where, you know, it meshed really well with what David was, you know, already doing. It was like, well, that's, you know, pretty cool. We, you know, it was sort of an all roads lead to Rome thing, you know, where it's like we got here from different paths, but we ended up at the same place. Yeah. You know what I mean? So why I do what I do? Why do I play bass? I like him. I was originally a drummer. I had an uncle that I adored.
That's brilliant. I love it.
Yeah, well, I had an uncle that I adored.
For that guy over there.
Yeah. Well, that's why him and I both agreed. It was like, well, you know, to be honest, the drummer will make and break a band, you know.
Yes.
And we both feel that way, yeah. But so I had an uncle that I adored and that played drums, and so I started drums actually when I was 11. You know what I mean? But you know, at times in high school, you know, I was really kind of more serious about playing guitar because it's the same thing like he said, where it's like, oh, I want to be able to have more, I guess, holistic view of songwriting, you know. And it probably wasn't until I was in my mid-20s, I think, that I really started when I really got into music theory, that I started having appreciation for what you can do as a bass player. And so to me, it was kind of, it married this area between being a guitar player and being a drummer. You know, the bass player kind of felt somewhere in the middle where it was like, you know, melodic enough to be able to have a huge impact on the feel and what was emphasized as the key of the song. It was also filled out the sound enough to really serve some similar purposes to what more rhythmic instruments had. So for me, it kind of, I don't know, it's almost a little bit like a 2-in-1, you know, but it was also kind of the last frontier, as like bass is sort of like lowest barrier of entry, but incredibly harder to get really good at than you would think it would be. It's deceptive.
I understand. My son is a bass player, so I get it.
Yeah. So that's
and I have training in music, so I played classical music for 6 years. So
oh, excellent. Okay, yeah.
So I understand music theory and writing music and all that jazz too.
Yeah. So I guess that would take us on to the most important member of this band.
Yes.
Landers. Oh, thank you. So I guess, yeah, it's kind of, David and I kind of have, I guess, the same history, like growing up, you know, because we kind of started hanging out at, I don't even know, really young, 6, 7, something like that is when we really started to hang out and kick it, you know. But yeah, both of our parents really kind of listened to, you know, a lot of metal, you know, rock, things like that growing up. My dad always kind of had a bunch of Iron Maiden albums, Guns N' Roses albums, Metallica box set, you know, things like that. That's kind of what I grew up listening to. But for me personally, you know, for metal, it's, I don't know, it's just a connection I guess I've always had with it. You know, that it, like, music for me is kind of like therapy, you know, which I think it is for a lot of people. It's gotten me through a lot of stuff, you know, moments, things in my life that I don't think even a person or anything else really could, you know. You know, for me personally, my music over the years, I've kind of dabbled with a little bit of everything, you know. I've kind of been into like electronic stuff, you know. I've like produced, I guess, EDM type stuff, things like that over the years, metal, you know. I listen to even like classical music in my own time. You know, it's just whatever kind of mood I'm kind of in that day, whatever I can connect with, that's what I listen to.
Right.
Yeah, but I guess on the lines of instrument-wise, I actually started out playing guitar when we were kids. It's crazy, I know. Yeah, I remember when David had his first drum set, and I got my first guitar, and like, so we were in this little shed at his house, and you barely even breathe in there, you know, because it was so tight, you know. But Yeah,
I
I
remember
remember
that.
we really first started. We were doing the opposite of what we do now.
Yeah.
We made it happen because it was 90, 100 degrees outside
Yeah.
all summer long.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
the
Oh,
most
yeah.
wonderful thing about it was in like a suburb area where there's houses everywhere. And there's no soundproofing, so we're literally blasting the neighborhood every day with music, and nobody called the police. And nothing. You do that now, people will call the police on you in
Oh,
5
yeah.
minutes. So
I
it's
know. I
just,
live in the country. I don't think I'll have that problem.
But you want to tell the kids back, anybody who's listening, you're like, oh, these kids nowadays, they don't understand this time called the 90s.
Or the 80s, because that's grunge.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Back when us old folks were younger.
Right?
Yeah. But in all seriousness, he's probably the most. Kalen's. Would you say he's probably the most accomplished? Like I actually went to his shows when he was doing EDM stuff. It was pretty amazing. You know what I mean? Like, he was just
Because as you already heard, not tooting horns or anything, but obviously we're all multi-instrumentalists.
Yeah.
There you go. So, but for him, I think, I would say so. He dabbles in
But I
electronics
think-
and I don't.
I think knowing about the other instruments, having played them, just gives each other more of an appreciation for each other, because you guys know what it means to play that particular instrument. I mean, I can't imagine playing drums. Let me just tell you. I look at this going, holy crap, how many hours do you spend in the gym, right? Or practicing or whatever. I mean, I just learned on the recorder. Like, that's my instrument.
yeah. I remember that.
I can play some badass stuff on the recorder.
Yeah, man.
I mean, to me, it's all about the end result.
Yeah.
The end result of like the first 2 singles that came out. Obviously, Kalen wasn't here for them, but I recorded the drum tracks for them. But looking at it now going forward, I'm like, the end result's going to be even better for whatever's done from here on because of where we've all been. And to me, it's all about the ear too. Like I learned by ear. Kalen learned by ear. Pretty sure you learned by ear.
Yeah.
So it's all about having that keen ear to hear what's good, what's not. And then by the time you get to that end result, you're like, wow, this sounds a lot better than it would have if I did this by myself.
Sure.
So,
Well, I want to thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day to talk with me. You guys got, I know, a couple of shows coming up. Talk about them.
okay. We just announced yesterday or last night that we have our debut for 2020. We would like to say it's our debut show altogether, but we've played before. It's just been a long time.
That's all right.
Our debut for 2020 is January 25th. It's at Another Round Bar on Brook Road. So that'll be pretty cool. We will be opening the show. So I actually used to hate opening shows, but I actually like the idea of it now because we actually help get to set the tone for the show.
Yeah.
For sure.
Because a lot of people don't think about that, and some bands will come out a little flat because they're opening and might not be happy about it or whatever. But anyways, I'm excited to help set the tone. Past that, the only other show we have for 2020 at the moment is Metal in the Mountains in June. We're not confirmed on a specific day. We don't know exactly yet, but we think that we're going to get pretty busy in 2020.
I would say so. It sounds like it already.
Yeah.
I've followed your page and you for a little while. I see the movement.
It's happening.
I see
Well,
the
just really.
Yeah. So this is earlier than we'd imagine. We probably would finish some more songs then. Because it's not very long. We were like,
work.
yeah, when she told us, it was like, when he told us, I was like, well, how long is the set time? Because, we could pull, like, we all have like backlogs of stuff that we brought to the table. It's like we could develop into things. And some of them are older songs where it feels like we're almost playing cover songs of ourselves from a long time ago in a way. So it's like, we could do that, but it's like, it's there in an emergency, but we're going to try to, see what we can.
Well, I can't wait to see you guys Metal in the Mountains, because that's probably the first time I'll actually get the chance to see you guys. Unless there's something happens up before then. So there's that.
Sure.
So
well, hell, we can't wait to see you either. Are you going to be there?
Will I be where?
She's gonna be there. At the Meadows
At
Mountains.
Meadows Mountains? Yeah, I'm gonna be there. Absolutely.
All right, we get a handshake and a pat on the back. All right.
I'm like the emotional support, mindset support. You know, if you're having a breakdown, you're like, Petra, I can't do this.
Mhm.
But again, I appreciate you guys taking the time. I'm gonna put this. These won't start until after the year because I have all the bands. I'm hoping all the bands say yes. I know that's unrealistic, but there's goals.
Right.
So start after the first of the year. I'm starting to release the interviews. I haven't decided on an order, so.
Oh.
Okay.
But I'll let you know because there's gonna be a blog post and I'll write a little cover about that, and then I'll go on YouTube. You can share whichever one you want, and I will let you all know when that's live.
Okay.
That sounds
Yeah.
cool. Well, thank you very much for having us, and we appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, thanks for taking the time and sort of let me be your debut interview.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
Making it exclusive.
That's fun.
That's right.
I like it.
All right, bye guys.
All right. Thank you.